that's probably the challenge a lot of us face is how do we convince clients that, yeah, you could use your phone at your, baby shower, but you're going to get 4 pictures as opposed to me sitting back and capturing great moments of your event.
Hello and welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I am here today with Colleen Katz, based out of Arizona, and we're working this No Women series. And Colleen has been a photographer with the No Women and also has her own portrait business and photography. And I'm really excited to dive into her story today. Colleen, welcome.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us all the things. Like, what has your journey in photography been like?
Well, I always giggle because I was one of those momographers.
Mm-hmm.
I was so frustrated. I had 4 kids, would take them to studios, and the whole hold it, pause thing was a nightmare. Ended in tears and threats. And I thought, gosh, all we want as moms is like a picture of our family to give out to the family and for holiday cards and whatnot. So my husband bought me a camera that was 3 pixels at the time. And I just started taking pictures and sending them out with, for my holiday cards, and then started doing friends. And then charities I was involved with, I started doing their events, and it just kind of grew from there. But I was probably in it a couple of years before I went and took a class.
Okay.
So I was one of those annoying people like, oh, of course you can charge $100 because you don't know what the hell you're doing. So I'm like, okay, I better get skilled in here. So had great mentorship with other photographers in the Valley. We've got a really nice community here where we all help each other out. And again, event photography, if you want to get thrown into something where you better learn lighting and not being shy and getting people to pose. And so that was a great learning arena to kind of hone some skills. And now I have a few charities I still work with, but I really like to focus more on families and, again, senior portraits, getting them to break out of their Instagram pose and relax a little bit. I always want to take a video of families when they come to take a picture because the only one that's happy about being there is mom. So I try to make it just as like painless as possible, which, I think I have a lot of repeat business. So I think they all appreciate it's not the hold it, pose, tell, just sort of let's have some fun. Let's get some pictures of you guys having a good time. And it's almost like a pseudo like ministry for me because I just remember just being that mom that just wanted one good picture. And now, especially with digital, on your phone, you've got a bunch, but either mom's not in it or the kids are rolling their eyes, or that's probably the challenge a lot of us face is how do we convince clients that, yeah, you could use your phone at your, baby shower, but you're going to get 4 pictures as opposed to me sitting back and capturing great moments of your event. And from there, get your family to pose for a family shot at different events that maybe you weren't planning a family picture, but ended up with one. So that's sort of my goal and focus when I go and meet with clients. It's like, we're not just going to be doing this. We can also expand it to that and capture those moments that you want to save forever.
I love that. Now, how long have you been in business?
About 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
My little eye-rolling children now are all in their 30s and they're still eye-rolling children. Give me a lot of grief about taking pictures, but yeah, so I have complete patience.
Gotcha. Well, for people who are starting on their journey, what would you say, like if you were talking to you 15 years ago, what advice would you give?
I think the scariest part is putting a value on your time and coming up with like a price when you start charging people. Mm-hmm. Either I've seen photographers come out of the gate charging and having disappointed clients in that nightmare scenario, or they're so undervaluing their time, or they aren't counting the editing time or counting the fact that you drove around for 2 days trying to find the perfect spot. Really, I think we're so blessed to have like Facebooks and pods and things like that where you could go and sort of ask a question and get some feedback about how to take steps into this. But I mean, first and foremost, know your worth, but also be honest with yourself on, are you ready to get into the point of being a professional? Because I got, getting my teeth from just taking pictures of friends and their kids. And then the first time I had someone outside of the circle of people I knew and said, oh, what do you charge? I grasped my pearls. I'm like, oh, charge. I have no idea. And again, that's when I became the momographer, charging, $100, $150 for each session. But it was a great learning tool. The clients were happy with what they got for $150. And then when it started going beyond the $150 quality range, again, it's that, getting that confidence to increase your pricing and expand your reach. And yeah, it's just starting out, just know you're not going to pick up a camera, take some good pictures, and instantly become a professional photographer. Allow yourself the time to get there and practice, take a lot of pictures.
So speaking of confidence, when did you really start to feel confident as a business owner?
When I had started getting the repeat customer, because a lot of times you don't hear from anyone. You send them their photos. I'm not doing print on my end. I allow them to buy the digitals. And so I think when somebody came to me like, well, I'd like you to print it, where should I hang this in my house? They started talking to me like a professional. I thought, wow, they really value what I have to say. So that sort of started building a little confidence, but definitely, the repeat customer is the greatest gift. I don't shoot weddings normally. And I had a client that I've been shooting for, 10 years, I guess. And her daughter was getting married. She goes, she doesn't want any photographers. She'll only have you, because they were kind of thinking they could do a cell phone wedding. Just made my heart hurt. So I came out and shot for that. But I was like, she was just one of those kids that like were moaning about getting her picture taken. And then on her most important day, she chose me. It was quite the honor.
No, that is super sweet. Well, and that kind of goes to the value piece, right? Like the connection that you have as a service provider is more than just being hands with a camera, right?
Yeah.
Like she connected with you as a human being, and there was trust there and faith there that you could do not only what like you say you can do, but actually hold space for her on that super special day. So that speaks volumes.
Just nerve-wracking, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Weddings.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this a million times on this podcast. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like weddings are just burpees for 12 hours and, double the equipment and all of, no, thank you. Like for the wedding photographers who are listening, like, I love you. Mean it.
God
You
bless
are
you.
bigger than I.
And again, it's a more intense client relationship too. It's like, this is one and done. You can't go back. You cannot reshoot. Right. This is it. And the expectations of people, even though they looked at your website and, maybe you did their engagement photos, they were all happy with that. There's some expectation when it comes to weddings they don't express until after you've shot the wedding. That's what makes me nervous.
That just speaks to the education process for
and you learn that. You learn what questions to ask and, good at that.
Well, and there's, a level of stress, and it's not just with the bride and groom, but with the families and the people who love them. There is a level of stress and expectation there. And you really, I second shot for this photographer here. His name's Ryan Baumgartner, and such a nice guy. And I was like, Ryan, my friend, like this demographic is all you for sure. Yeah. And you also mentioned that you did some charity work. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I'm involved in a charity. It's called Kids in Focus. And what the founder had created this incredible program. She was working with, I think it started with school photos and then kind of fed into working with some kids, teaching them photography. But what she was noticing is that, especially with digital photography, there wasn't that failure sometimes you get with some art therapies, where you feel like you're not painting as well or your sculpture is not looking as good. There wasn't failure with this. And she sort of just kept building on to this. And now it's this organization that a lot of the either hobbyists or professional photographers have joined us. We work with kids that are in the foster system, Title I schools. We've helped with, again, Boys and Girls Club, district schools, and we get partnered. So there's a mentor per two kids, and we kind of build a relationship that those walls that normally come when an adult comes in and says, I'm here to mentor you, get dropped because you're both photographers, you're peers at that point. And so we're both trying to create a beautiful shot. And while they're doing that, you're sort of giving them a little lesson on, wow, I didn't think that was that pretty of a flower. It looked kind of dead, but gosh, when you shot it from underneath it or on top of it, or when you have the light coming in this way. So we're teaching them photography tools, but also kind of teaching them some life skills and ways of looking at things. And by really the second or third time you're working with these kids, you're their friend. They come in and tell you about their day and ask your advice. And it's just amazing that this one tool can make an adult and child equal, like we can work together on something. And I'm a people photographer. So photographing objects, I become very humbled, usually by the third or fourth session when these kids are like, okay, that could be in a museum. And it's also grown my own photography. I was, someone who always like wanted to capture faces and people and emotions. And then now it's made me kind of expand to environments. So it's changed my approach on photography. I'm not afraid of having, backgrounds or having, the subject small and the background large, or, experimenting and including more. Where before, I thought, oh, that's just distractions. So even for the mentors, you get to learn a little something working with the kids.
I mean, it's gotta feel really great to be in a position to help kids sort of navigate their own perspective and how to see the world. What does that mentoring do for you as a person?
Again, I have 4 kids. I had 4 and 5 years. So it was like a crazy rush. So I feel like, oh gosh, I never even got to enjoy the kid part of all of this. But
Mm.
especially in middle school, there's just this like insecurity. I just want to hide till puberty over, that kind of shutdown feeling. And you just see them bloom. While schools are so packed and there's 40 kids in a class, a kid, you'll get his bio and maybe, it's not the greatest of bios. And you're looking at this kid going, that is nothing like the person I see on this sheet. I think it allows us to sort of communicate back to the organization we're working with, like, look, I think, got labeled in 4th grade. Now he's in 6th grade, still carrying this around. He wants to succeed. He's excited about school. There's different things that maybe aren't seen in a classroom that when you're on this, 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 moment, you get to share that. So I don't feel like I'm rescuing the world. I feel like, maybe the last 10 kids I got to mentor, I got to make a little difference in how they were perceived and also how people perceive them. The best part of it is we have an exhibit at the end, and so the kids get 2 pictures. We put on metal prints, and it's open to the public. We have upwards to 400 people that come and see the show. We've got food, and the kids get to stand by their pictures. And it's funny, at the beginning they're a little intimidated, but at the end they're like, "You'll notice the reflective light that I bounced off this in order to keep." And their parents are watching this, and it's just the whole event of it is like the parents have probably only gotten kind of yucky reports on their kids, and all of a sudden they're being stars of the show. And their confidence, like, okay, who are all these people? Why do they care that I took pictures? To the point at the end where they're like, well, because they admired my talent, of course, because they'll see that this is something people are excited about. And I think it just teaches them too, that if you put a little effort to something and you have success, that's kind of addictive. It's just great to see that moment where they're like, you know what, I did something. This is all on my own, and I'm being celebrated for it.
Well, I mean, you're getting something out of it. You're watching these kids develop confidence after being, just like you said, kind of labeled as whatever, and
Yeah.
realizing like, no, they're people too, and they're growing, and a lot can change even in a year, and you get to advocate for that. They're going to go on and take that confidence into other areas of their lives.
Yeah. Well, we just started implementing, because now that, the kids are getting older, junior mentors. So we're developing leadership that way. And some have gotten an interest in photography as well. And we have, people who have donated their cameras, they've upgraded. And so there's like a little process, and then they get their own camera. And what's been great on our website, we have a video of a mom sharing her story. She said it all of a sudden she had something to talk to me about. All of a sudden she's come out of her shell and she's happy about something. And that's what's hard. It's like kids, they get quiet and go in their rooms, and you don't have any way to
Mhm.
connect to them. Anything. You're just desperate to have something to share. So they go to exhibits together and see photography things, or they go up north and take pictures for the day. And so they have actually found a bridge also to communicate with this. So
Oh my
photography is
gosh.
magic. It really is.
Wow. That's so cool. That
It's
is
so
so
fun.
cool.
It's the one thing I do when I volunteer that I've seen a difference within the day I've been with someone, like they go
Mhm.
from like rolling their eyes and this is lame to being excited to see their pictures when we come back and go over them. And then they're, running in the next week. It's just, how often do you get to make a
Yeah.
difference that quick?
Well, and like a friend of mine, Josh Beaton, he has created a 501(c)(3 called the Tween Esteem Project. And he's based out of Chicago. But it's really about photographing teens that wouldn't normally have access to like a luxury portrait experience,
Oh,
right?
that's
But
cool. Yeah.
also delivering confidence, and beautiful artwork. This is sort of like the the upside to that, or the other side to that, right? Where they're creating something that belongs to them to develop that confidence also. And I know he's been, in the works with trying to see if it's franchisable and all of the things to have other locations too. So yeah, that's really exciting.
If I hear of a family or something that's, has a senior and they just can't afford the large senior packages, I'm like, give them my name. Everyone deserves this. Photography, I think some have just been kind of washed away because everything's on a phone. It's like, oh yeah, my phone takes great pictures. It's like, yeah, but that's your phone taking great pictures. Are you taking great pictures, or would you like to learn how to take those better? And I just laugh when people say, oh gosh, I was going to hire you. And I thought, oh, I'll just take the pictures. And I ended up with 4. It's like, yeah, sometimes it's good to hire somebody to come in and take your photos at your event, or the family
Well, and if
portrait.
you're trying to do it, it's just becomes a distraction and taking you out of being in the event that means so much to you in the first place.
Well, even like with senior pictures, I didn't take my kids' senior pictures. I hired somebody to take my because I knew I'd get that heavy loaded, like, all right, we
Come on,
done?
mom.
We done?
Come
Yeah.
on, mom. Yeah. I remember being that teenager. Like, no, I came across my senior photo from my high school yearbook the other day and was just like, oh my. It's literally like just big bug eyes. And I was
I,
like, what were you thinking? Right.
I know. I was the class of 85. So yeah, I was fully in the 80s and all of that.
But hey, we made it out alive. We made it out
Yeah.
alive. So, all right, let's shift though. Like we've got like this terrific, charitable element to like your
Yeah.
life and your business. But your business as a whole, like 15 years, what does that look like? Like navigating through like the housing crisis and then again in through COVID, like, and you're still standing. What were those
Yeah.
lessons like?
I've been blessed. This is kind of like an additional income for me. So it's not had to be something I'm dependent on, but I always want to be really respectful of the community I'm in too. So
Sure.
I think that was one of the lessons is like, yeah, I could underbid everybody because I don't need to pay my rent on this, but is that fair? Does that
To the
make you part of the
industry,
community?
sure.
Yeah. And once I realized that and you get embraced and you learn more. And so I think one of the biggest lessons was, again, just respect the art and don't take it for granted. Learn from people that admire or see doing it better than you are, which, is constant, especially younger people with the whole Instagram and the reels and all that stuff. I'm like, I just am too old to learn this.
What's
Like,
TikTok? Somebody
female,
explain
taking a
TikTok to me,
picture.
please.
Yeah. I'm not going to dance now. And it's so cute because, the families now are younger. And so they'll like, oh, I took a reel of you taking pictures. I'm like, oh, yay. Okay. My
Glad
clients
somebody
being my
did.
promotional people. I know. So yeah, I feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm still like on the smaller scale. My busy season, is September through May. And then the summer, I think, oh, thank God. And then come this time of year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing some style shoots. Swearing to myself, I'm like, okay, this is the year. I'm just going to like, boom, get this all in a box, laid out, the price sheets, everything I see coming across on other photographers. I'm like, I really haven't gotten to that point yet of having it be like packages. And normally it's all individual. I have kind of like my guide for pricing, but when I sit down with someone, sort of gear it towards what their needs are. And probably not the best way to do that because the next client might have different needs, but they heard that I only charge this with that client,
Mm-hmm.
So there's just different business side lessons that I'm still needing to learn. 15 years is really kind of hopefully fine tuning the photography part. Now the business side is a whole new deal. I know. Kids are
Oh,
gone.
yes, for sure. Now, how did you get involved with the No Women?
So I had a friend who nominated for it, so it was very exciting. And again, I heard of it for a while, and I had a couple of friends that were photographers for them. So they reached out to me to ask me to help Susan Hogue's the photographer for the Phoenix area. She's awesome. So she was just overwhelmed. I think they increased the number of people that were going to be in the book this year. So I helped along with that. Again, great learning curve because I thought just go and take a picture of a full length picture and then, work with them if they want to buy it. And then after I think I talked to Susan, probably 2 or 3 clients, and she's like, oh, no, I have a whole pack. Like she has a whole way of doing this where you can actually create it like it's your client and then you're giving a picture to no. And I was doing it the other way. I was taking a picture for no and like, oh, if you want to hire me, I also do this on the,
Oh, gotcha.
no, I
Yeah.
had no idea. I think it was kind of like a quick thing, like we need you. Can you help us? So I think the next approach, I'll be kind of following along with the Susan Hogue model of it. And it's such a great opportunity because just the people that you meet, even the people I was taking pictures of, I'm dealing with, my mother's got dementia. And so one of the photos I had taken was a woman who helped with senior planning, and then so was working with her. It's just neat when you have a community like the No, and it's so many different facets of the world. And whatever you're going through, there's going to be someone there that you'll be like, oh, here, I'll call this person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. No, like your network is your net worth is a
Yeah.
is a thing. And, they've really expanded a lot. It's not just a networking group, but it's about, connection and collaboration. I've been with No for a long time, since like 2018, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because it started
Something
what,
like that.
16? When did it start?
16 or 17.
Yeah.
Something in that space. And my friend Stephanie Munn, we worked out at the same gym. And she had worked with the No Women in Charlotte and wanted to bring it to Asheville. And so I shot the Asheville book. And then as No grew and started incorporating like Women to Know in North Carolina and Women to Know in Florida. And so I was shooting Charlotte, Raleigh, Asheville, Tampa, Sarasota, Fort
Wow.
Myers, Phoenix. And like, I did a tour for a couple of years with them. But it was, like now I now have this like massive network of these amazing women.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking with Sarah Fishy, she's the founder, and I was like, I want to feature the photographers that are shooting for you, right? Because everything with Studio Takeover is about, portrait, and then
Yeah.
the subset in there is branding. It's really about like building those connections and what has it done for you, right? Like you said yourself, I know that I now have
A
a
go-to
phone book of
resource. Yeah.
women, right? Of connection with women across all industries in your area and nationwide.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you were like, you know what? I want my son or daughter is moving to North Carolina and like they're looking for resources in finances, right? Like, okay, let's take a look at the North Carolina and see who's there doing finance. I was like, photographers unite. Let's go.
I always laugh when someone gets a little puffy or, territorial. It's like, calm down. All good.
Well, and competition is so silly. Like you want to be aware of who's in your market
And
and
again, we're all competitive. It's just, you don't have to be all puffy and nasty
No, of
about it.
course not.
Yeah.
Look, like you said, there's enough work for everybody, A. And B, when you start feeling like that, ooh, about somebody that you're in competition with, that's just envy.
Yeah.
And instead of
But
envy, maybe look at it like, oh, hey, that's proof that it can happen.
I had someone that, I hate saying no to a client, so I'd rather pass them on to another photographer. And there's always kind of like the handshake deal of like, cover for me, but they're my client sort of thing. And happy
Yeah, but
flow
on
and
the same
thing.
token, like if somebody wants to go somewhere else, like they're absolutely welcome to. But my point is if somebody wants to quote unquote poach my client, um, at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop staying connected to that client.
Yeah.
Like the sales and the follow up, right? So even if I see on Instagram, right, like my client is working with another photographer, I might also be like, oh, hey, let's send her an email. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Barbara, it's been a while since I've seen you. Hope you're doing well. Loved everything you did with XYZ photographer. Like, it looks
She's great.
amazing. But it's not about like, you can't go there. It's just,
Yeah. I get the
awesome.
picture.
Well, so what are you most excited about this year?
I'm excited for the elections to be over because right now all the events are being stuffed into the beginning of September and then not till December.
December. Yeah.
There's kind of like this big void. So I have a feeling it's going to get a little crazy because again, there's only so many photographers and 500 events. So I'm looking for that to be over because I think that's going to be fun. I'm already starting to get some overlapping dates. no, but just business wise, I'm just looking for, again, just sort of a sense of like organization. I think, being a creative, sitting still and getting these things done, I will feel a great sense of accomplishment if I get that done this year. So that's my goal, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. You know what? Like your own personal growth, like should be important to you,
Yeah,
election year or not,
I know.
like, hey, this is a priority for me. I want to get it done.
Yeah,
That's
I just have
awesome.
a feeling like the month of November, I might have plenty of time to do these things.
So where can people find you online?
So I'm on Instagram. It's Pictures and Pixels AZ. And again, Facebook is Pictures and Pixels on there. And then if you want more information about Kids in Focus, it's just kidsinfocus.org. Go on there and check it out. We've got little albums of the pictures the kids have actually taken, as is out of camera. So it's kind of interesting to see how that all evolves by the end of their little session that we have with us. So yeah, that's the best ways to reach me.
That's very cool. And guys, those of you who are listening, those links are all going to be dropped in the description below. But thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our
Oh my gosh,
conversation.
thank you so much for letting me share this. It's been great. I appreciate you. And again, I'm a fan. I'm following you.
Well, again, thank you. Appreciate your time so much. And guys, definitely get in touch, get to donating to Kids in Focus, and we'll see you next week.